So let's talk about gas. Dirt cheap, just 66 cents in Alabama. It was a short-time promotion, to be sure, by a car dealership. Here's how it worked. The first 350 drivers in line were allowed to fill up with 15 gallons, but it only cost them about $10 instead of the usual 60. The dealership in turn says all the money will be donated to local schools. So where did the idea for 66-cent gas come from? The owner of the dealership says he wanted to put a spin on a 99-cent promotion. So what did he do? Yeah, he flipped the numbers. Smart guy.
That's creative.
Yeah.
CNN Newsroom continues just 1 hour from now.
Issue number 1 with Jerry Willis and Rick Sanchez starts right now.
Big talk on energy from the White House, from Capitol Hill, and the reaction from the markets. What it could mean for your gas prices. Americans' obsession with credit cards easing up a bit. Checking bags at the airport just got a bit more expensive. And how to get what you want when you want it for the best price by haggling. Issue number 1 is your economy. Issue number 1 starts right now. From the issue number 1 headquarters to the CNNMoney.com newsroom, we are all over the stories that matter to you. Hello, everybody. I'm Jerry Willis. Ali Velshi is off today. The spotlight in Washington, hey, it is almost solely on energy. We're all over the story at the White House, on Capitol Hill, and at the New York Stock Exchange. We'll show you what has finally convinced Americans to cut back on their credit card use and why you never, ever want to lie on your resume. Rick Sanchez, let's talk about issue number 1. It is the economy.
I think maybe the best way to tell this story today is something like this. You got 2 people, right? One of them pays her bills on time, takes care of her family, and never borrows more than she can pay back. And then there's the other guy down the street. He spends more than he brings in. He borrows irresponsibly. And then he gets so far in debt that he has to go around knocking on doors on everybody in the neighborhood to try and bail him out. That second guy that I just described, many would argue, is our present U.S. government. This week, we learned that our deficit is going to be higher than at any point in our country's history. In other words, we have spent more than we are taking in. And today we get the news that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are also going to be bailed out. By whom? By you. All with the stroke of a president's pen. Oh, and the energy crunch that we're in, that experts have been seeing coming for decades, that's costing us about $100 every week, every time we fill up our gas tanks. Congress is trying to solve it by the end of this week. Wow. CNN's Kathleen Koch is following this story for us. She's at the White House. Kathleen, how are they doing?
Well, Rick, here at the White House, they would contend that they, here on Pennsylvania Avenue, are doing everything that they can. The president came out in the Rose Garden about an hour ago to point the finger squarely at Congress. The president has long contended that this is an issue of supply and demand. He insists that the key to increasing supply is allowing more drilling offshore in the United States, drilling in Alaska's Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, opening up more lands in the West for oil shale development. And the president called on Democratic leaders to come out and allow a vote on those ideas before Congress leaves at the end of the week for its August recess.
Time for action is now. This is a difficult period for millions of American families. Every extra dollar they have to spend because of high gas prices, one less dollar they can use to put food on the table, or to pay the rent, or meet their mortgages. The American people are rightly frustrated by the failure of Democratic leaders in Congress to enact common sense solutions.
Now, the White House and Congress know what really may be at stake here is perhaps the elections in November. The concern is that the voters could take their anger out on whatever party they see as to blame for inaction on soaring gas prices. And that's why you have seen the president coming out virtually every day, speaking out on energy, blaming Congress. And that's why also you'll be hearing the Democratic leadership on Capitol Hill saying it is indeed the president's energy policies that got us where we are. And that's why it's time, Rick, to try their ideas.
Yeah, and they say there's possibly another way to fix it. They say it's the fault of many of these index speculators. We're going to be talking about that in just a little bit as well. Kathleen, thanks so much for that report. Let's go back over to Jerry.
Okay, this morning's events obviously meant to send a strong signal to lawmakers on Capitol Hill, where the energy negotiations are ongoing without a deal in sight. CNN's Brianna Keeler is live right now in Washington with the very latest. Brianna, it sounds like the beat goes on. Big issue, no solutions.
That is one way to put it. Democrats and Republicans at this point downplaying the possibility that Congress will come to an agreement on energy legislation before they head home for their month-long August recess, which begins at the end of this week. So in the Senate, what you have is Democrats who have proposed legislation, but Republicans feeling like they don't have enough input there. And then in the House, Speaker Nancy Pelosi has vowed not to allow a vote on oil drilling, so things stalled there as well. Democrats are blaming Republicans. Republicans are blaming Democrats. Here's House Minority Leader John Boehner.
This is a defining week for this Congress. For Speaker Pelosi and Harry Reid and Barack Obama and the drill nothing Congress, we should not go home for a month of vacation without dealing with the issue the American people most want us to deal with, and that's the cost of gasoline.
Democrats and Republicans so opposed on what the solution is here. Republicans, by and large, agree with the president that drilling off the coasts of California and Florida and in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge is one solution to bringing gas prices down. But Democrats are vehemently opposed to that. They, by and large, are proposing to cut down on oil speculation that they claim drives up oil prices. They also want to release some oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and increase research of alternative energy sources. Well, that said, there is a bipartisan group of House members introducing a bill today that would include offshore drilling. Here's Congressman Neil Abercrombie, Democrat from Hawaii.
The people of the United States are completely frustrated and disgusted with the fact that the Congress has done nothing to respond. We can't pass a bill. Can't pass the House, can't pass the Senate. It's not working. So we determined that on a nonpartisan basis, that everybody would bring their best efforts to the table.
But again, even with pressure from Americans who are frustrated with high gas prices, it's really looking like Democrats and Republicans are content to play this blame game until they leave Washington for August recess. Jerry.
Sounds like a whole lot of gridlock. Brianna, thank you for that.
All right, let's bring it back now to what we're talking about, what you just heard Brianna say. The Democrats have one plan over here. The Republicans have another plan over here. Hopefully, they're going to be able to somehow come together, right? Well, let's see. Texas Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson is among those trying to hammer this out. Senator, the clock is ticking. Are you guys going to be able to do this? You're down to just a matter of days, aren't you?
Well, I hope so. We all want common sense solutions. That will include production as well as conservation and as well as trying to encourage solar and wind energy, the renewables. We can have a balanced package, but it means that we have to start debating amendments and putting together that balanced package.
Let's do this. Let's be real specific. Let's start with what the Dems want, all right? The Democrats are saying, look, if we put pressure on some of these index speculators, who some experts say can drive up the price of gas by up to $2, this thing could really work. And that's the first thing that we have to do, they say. Good idea, bad idea, you say what?
Well, the experts say that this is a supply and demand issue. The way to bring down speculation and get to those people who are hedging against higher prices is to show that we're going to produce more and produce more supply. That's the way to bring the hedgers down. That is what seems to be lost on the majority, but I think Warren Buffett and the Washington Post and the New York Times even agree that really it's time to start thinking outside the box.
Okay, they say control the speculators. You say we just need to drill. If drilling is such a good idea, I mean, why didn't we start doing this a long time ago? Isn't this like waiting for the patient to be almost terminal before you start to give him his medicine?
Actually, Congress passed drilling in ANWR, and President Clinton vetoed it. We would be drilling, we would be producing the same amount that we import from Saudi Arabia every day if President Clinton hadn't vetoed it when Congress passed it. So we have tried. And I think now the circumstances are different. Even people who used to be against drilling, knowing that that is an interim solution for the next 20 years as we get the new technologies up and going.
Right.
Even people who've been against it in the past have said, change of circumstances.
Well, who wouldn't be against it with the gas prices up at around $4 and it costs us all about $100 every time we go to fill up our tank? That makes sense. In fact, we've got a poll. I think we might be able to put that up. Well, Americans asked this question say that they would prefer offshore drilling by 69% to 30%. Again, this is like the patient at the hospital who's on his dying days. Yeah, he's desperate. He wants a solution. But now let's look at the flip side of this. I'm going to read to you what the Energy Information Administration says about the impact of offshore drilling, because a lot of people may see this as a panacea. It doesn't seem to be. They say extra drilling, quote, would not have a significant impact on domestic crude oil and natural gas production or prices before the year 2030. That's a long wait, isn't it?
Well, I think if we start taking action, first of all, I think it will be sooner than that, but we have other options. We do have ANWR. We have oil shale in Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming. Those are other options. We have more drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, which is another option. There are many other drilling opportunities that are now closed. But having said that, even if it were 2020,
or
2030, it would bring the speculation down.
Yeah.
Even 2030, but I reject that. But even if it were, it would bring the speculation down, because why would someone hedge that prices were going to continue to go up if we have said we are going to increase supply?
Good point. Kill two birds with one stone. One final question I want to ask you. I'm going to put you on the spot here, okay? Because I'm trying to represent the American people, and this is what they would want to know. Will you go on the record right here and assure the American people that you will not go on recess until you've got this deal done?
If we were in the majority, I would say yes. I don't control the majority, but we are pressing hard right now. We are in negotiations to make this a production bill that would be a balanced bill. Our leaders are talking about it. I think there's movement. They really are, I think, moving, but we're not in the majority. The Democrats are, and they have to make the decision about who goes home. I'm ready to stay.
Senator, you're going to get a lot of heat if you guys go away and you don't get this thing done.
I'm ready to stay. Republicans are ready to stay.
We thank you, Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson from Texas, for joining us and go through this very important discussion with us. Jerry, over to you.
Well, with the stroke of a pen today, President Bush signed a massive housing bill this morning aimed at providing mortgage relief for hundreds of thousands of struggling homeowners. Now, this bill is viewed as the most significant housing measure in decades. It allows homeowners who can't afford their payments to refinance into more affordable fixed-rate government-backed loans rather than losing their homes. Lenders have to agree to participate in the program, which may not go into effect until October or even later. The bill commits up to $300 billion to the program. The bill also throws a temporary financial lifeline to troubled mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Now, these two government-sponsored enterprises are responsible for half the giant $5 trillion mortgage market. The administration says it'll start right away putting the new policies into action. Rick?
This show is all about you, and it's time for you to get involved. We're bringing you in to weigh in on our quick vote right now. CNNMoney.com's Poppy Harlow is here with today's question, and it is?
It is, drum roll here, talking about how rough it is out there for Americans with these high oil and gas prices, all contributing to a very tough economy, putting strain on many household budgets. So we want to know how you're doing with your own personal finances. That is your economy. Have you changed your spending habits? Here's our question for you today. Because of my economy, I have used my credit cards less, used my credit cards more, used my credit cards as usual, or cut up my credit cards. Let us know on CNNMoney.com. We'll bring you the results later in the show. Rick?
That's an interesting question.
I wonder how many people cut them up.
The credit card is like that blanket that Linus had in Charlie Brown, you know? Jerry, over to you.
Or it's just a pain in the rear end. It can be either thing, right? Right? Okay. Well, all this talk about energy and drilling, it must be having an effect on the stock market. We'll head down to Wall Street to find out why. Plus, why checking a second bag at the airport, hey, it's about to get a lot more expensive. And why Americans' love affair with credit cards, as we're saying, is hitting a big bump on the road. We're all over issue number one right here on CNN. Stay with us.
We welcome you back to issue number one. I'm Rick Sanchez. I told you earlier about the president signing that bailout bill for housing and Congress working on an energy bill at the same time. And oh, did I mention the deficit? Record deficit? Did I mention that? How is all of this playing on Wall Street? What are investors doing about all these problematic situations? CNN's Susan Lisovich is watching things for us. Well, what are investors doing? Are they shaky?
They're buying today.
Good.
We've got back-to-back gains and, well, right now close to triple-digit gains, Rick. We saw an early pop in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac shares. Right now, Fannie's still up 2%. Freddie is flat, but they're the primary beneficiaries of the bill. Oil's not moving much, and in these crazy markets, that's a good thing. Talk about an energy package, typically not something that will drive commodity prices. However, the weekly inventory report often does. This morning we saw a big decline in gas inventories. A gain was expected. Crude inventories also showed a decline, but a much smaller than expected decline. So oil not doing too much, about $122.50 a barrel right now, Rick.
Still, it's down. To what do we owe that?
It's down about $25 from its record high earlier this month, Rick. The key word is driving. We're driving less, consolidating our errands, going online for purchases, driving smaller cars, doing the staycation. That's been a big factor in the decline. Just remember last week, a report showing Americans drove 10 billion fewer miles in the month compared to a year ago.
All right, well, here's what I think the average American watching you and I have this conversation right now would want to know. Fine, you're telling me it's down overall compared to what it was, which is still up from what it used to be. What's it going to do long term? Are we ever going to get back to somewhere at least near where we used to be smiling as beautifully as you are right now?
Like $70 a barrel, boy, that would really take an optimist. I mean, we've seen a big decline, and you know, there are some folks, some erudite, observers on Wall Street that think it's going to yeah, I had to throw that word
erudite.
in there. Yeah, erudite. I think it actually is. But anyway, these levels where we're at are going to continue to crimp consumer spending and corporate profits. But already we're seeing some results. Just yesterday, Rick, we got consumer confidence. It was better than expected. And there's the psychology of buying gas. Say it costs $60 to fill up your tank instead of $70. Right. Well, that's a little better. We have a lot of problems in this economy. The housing crisis, the credit crunch, weakening jobs market. We need a bigger decline for consumers to have a direct impact on the economy. I was just speaking to Art Hogan, the chief investment officer at Jefferies. He said $95 to $105 a barrel will really see a noticeable difference in the economy. So we got $22 to go to get there.
What's his name, you said? Who told you this?
Art Hogan.
From Art's lips to God's ears, right?
Yeah, to OPEC's ears.
Susan Lisovich, thanks so much. Jerry,
You're
back
welcome.
over to you.
All right. Well, Rick, I think that psychology of buying gas is probably depression. But anyway, get ready to pay more when you fly Delta. It's doubling a charge for a second checked bag. It'll now cost you $50 to check that second bag on domestic flights. The new fee will apply to those of you who bought a ticket on or after today for travel on or after August 5th. Now, Delta says the move is part of a set of fee increases to help offset soaring fuel costs, that is. Also going up fees for specialty items like surfboards and skis. Checked on both domestic and international flights. You're also going to have to shell out more of your money to check a third bag and for bags over a certain weight and size. So not great news. Look, gas prices may be down, but they're still near record highs. And as you pay more at the pump, you have to wonder, where is all that money going to? CNNMoney.com's Poppy Harlow, I think she's going to tell us.
Yeah, wrap your hands around this number, Jer. $35 billion.
Do I get a part of that?
I know. That's
no.
what everyone's asking me today. We don't get a part of it, but that's how much the world's 4 biggest oil companies are expected to have earned in just the last 3 months. So where's all that money going? A lot of different places, including into the wallets of oil executives. But a much greater amount of that money is going back to shareholders, possibly to you. Last year, more than half of the available cash from the 5 biggest oil companies went back to shareholders in the form of stock buybacks and dividends. Compare that to 30% in 2000 and just 1% in 1993. That benefits a lot of mutual funds and 401k accounts. In other words, it could benefit you, it could benefit me. And for the second day in a row, the energy fix is, if you can't beat them, join them. So where isn't the money going? It's not going to more oil exploration, Jerry. We're basically flat in terms of money going into oil exploration from where we were even 10 years ago.
You know, Poppy, I've got to tell you, though, the stock prices, participating by stock ownership, it's just not the same as having all that money yourself. And what are those stocks doing?
You would think they'd be soaring, right, for the biggest oil companies. They're not really so far this year. Well, prices of oil, they've been certainly rising. We talk about it every day. That has not translated into higher stock prices for the world's largest oil company, ExxonMobil. Oil, it's up 27% this year and was up a lot more just 2 weeks ago. But Exxon stock is down 14% on the year, even though it's expected to report another record quarterly profit tomorrow. And one reason for that, Exxon is increasingly buying oil on the open market to refine that into gasoline, so its costs are going up as well. But yours aren't lately. Perhaps that's because of this energy fix, prayer at the pump. I love this story. This group in Ohio prayed for lower prices towards the end of June. Since then, gas is down 8 cents or 2%. Hey, it's something, right? It's something.
Well, I don't know, Poppy. I mean, if I thought it would make a big difference, I'd do it too, but I'm not convinced.
I know. Well, if praying is not your thing, for cheaper gas, more energy fixes on CNNmoney.com.
All right, Poppy, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We're all going to sit around singing Kumbaya in just a moment. Maybe that'll work as well. If you're one of millions of Americans who haven't gotten your stimulus check in the mail, let us know. Jerry's going to send it to you. Just kidding. We can't help you, though. There's information we can give you on this. Also, from coast to coast, Americans using credit cards less. Did you know? Also, when you think lying on your resume, no big deal. Think again. That is a dangerous game you could be playing, my friend. This is issue number 1. We'll be right back.
Very good, pal. You're doing a good job.
you are a retiree or a veteran, or you know somebody who is, listen up. More than 5 million of you may be due stimulus checks of at least $300. Now, to get them, you must file a return with the IRS, even though you normally are not required to do so. Now, over the next 2 weeks, look for a reminder from the IRS. It's sending info packets to those of you who have yet to file. The IRS says the packets have all the information you'll need to qualify for the checks. You must have made at least $3,000 in order to receive the minimum $300 check for singles, $600 if married and filing jointly. Rick.
Let me ask you a question. Those of you who are sitting there at home watching us right now, I'm wondering about the way that you're spending these days. Are you finding yourself, for example, using credit cards more or less these days because of what's going on in the economy? It's a good question, right? CNN senior correspondent Alan Chernoff is joining us now. He's been looking into this, and the answer is?
Well, Rick, you know the old saying, right? During tough times, the tough go shopping.
Right.
Well, times are so tough right now that even the appeal of credit cards is fading fast. A study out today from Javelin Strategy and Research finds that many Americans view credit cards as the enemy.
This is that one. Look at how much we've lost. Right, it's incredible.
When Cappy and Don Paris saw their investment losses earlier this year, they decided it was time to tighten their belts. Cappy, a school teacher, and Don, a college professor, swore to stop using their credit cards unless absolutely necessary. A big change from their old attitude.
I felt secure with my credit cards, like, oh, well, I always have my credit cards. Now I feel like it's almost like there's a big caution sign in front of the credit card. You know, do not use, only in case of emergency.
The only plastic the Perez are using much today is their debit cards. The Perez are economizing. They sold off their gas-guzzling SUV and bought this, a little gas miser of a car. And the couple is trying to attack their credit card debt of $8,000.
How badly do you want to pay that off? Oh, it would be a top priority. In fact, we have made it such in our family.
Even so, the Perez say they're barely making a dent in their credit card debt. Cappy and Don have plenty of company. Americans have built a mountain of credit card debt, nearly $1 trillion, and they're having trouble paying it down, even as 40% of households cut credit card use, largely middle-income and middle-aged Americans, according to Javelin Strategy and Research, a financial research firm.
Credit card companies are running a bit scared right now, and for good reason, because people are having a difficult time paying off their balances.